Hey folks, so we've been talking a lot about these barbarian tribes, barbarian kingdoms that came in and started carving up and slicing up little kingdoms for themselves in what used to be the western part of Rome. One of those kings, one of those kingdoms was Charlemagne, okay, king of the Franks. So he started setting up his own empire. We were talking about him, and you guys were doing your tombstone project for him, your epitaph. Again, if you have questions on that, send me an email. I'll help you out. There's a new fancy word we're going to learn. And it's a system of, how I want to describe it, a system of living or society maybe, that develops during this time period of chaos. There's lots of fighting, there's lots of wars, all these tribes are trying to gobble up land, and it's called feudalism. It's called feudalism. I'm going to kind of go through a couple slides here, just going to tell us, hey, what was life like in Europe at the time? What was it like living under Charlemagne? And then at the end, we're going to clearly define what the heck is feudalism. We're going to come up with a chart that's going to show us what that looks like. All right, so what was life like under Charlemagne? Okay, there's a group of people in the Middle Ages called the lords or the nobles. Now, these are very powerful people, very powerful people. They're not quite as powerful as the kings or, like in our case, Charlemagne, but they're pretty powerful. And the reason they're very powerful is because they've got a lot of money, they've got a lot of land. Most of their wealth comes from the fact that they own land. They own land, they can produce food, they can sell that, they can trade that, okay, for other treasures or money. So the more land you have, the more money, the more power you're going to have. In Charlemagne's time, you had to make pretty much everything you needed, right? They had people making shoes and clothes and tools and weapons. Blacksmiths, carpenters, okay, people who built houses, people who made jewelry, weapons. You also had farmers. The farmers typically gave their food that they grew, okay, to the nobles, to the lords. In exchange, the lords and the nobles let them live on the land, let them use it for farming, so they're kind of trading it. The farmers, the poor people said, hey, let us live here, we'll work for you, we'll give you the food. Okay. In exchange also for land, often soldiers would serve in the army, protect the lord, protect the land. So we're going to see a lot of people trading service and stuff that they make for protection and for land. The farmers were often called serfs. Serfs basically are peasants, they're poor people. They don't own the land, so they can't make a lot of their own money. A lot of what they make is food and other goods that they have to give to the lords and the nobles, the people who own the land. Okay. Your typical land, or as we're going to call it, manor, you'll see that in a little bit. It's kind of set up like this. You'd have the lord's castle, so either the lord or the king, whoever's the richest in that area, live in the castle or like a fort. Okay. You're going to have farm fields, fields for your animals and your livestock, okay, your pastures. You would have a village with a church and some shops and some homes. Okay, so it looks something like that. Check out this video. It's kind of a Lego version and explanation for this fancy word feudalism, how it works. So check that out, especially if you're tired of hearing Mr. Hilderman talk. Basically, power and wealth. So power and money was all based on land. The more land you had, the more money and power you had. Okay, the kings, they owned all the land. So guys like Charlemagne, they owned these big empires, big lands, big kingdoms. When people are loyal to them, they serve in the army, they fight hard for them, they work for them, the kings would give land as gifts, called fiefs. A lot of times, that was based on military service. You fight hard for the king, the king's going to give you some land to live on. Now, that brings us to feudalism. Now, you guys have a couple of different things, you have this document, okay, this chart that you're going to be able to use on the test. Okay, it's going to pop up on the test. It's a blank feudalism document. It's basically explaining what life was like in the Middle Ages, in these kingdoms. We're going to fill this in together in a second. I'm also going to post and show you guys pretty much a filled-in version that's a little bit bigger than the one on the Nearpod. But let me get to the end of the Nearpod notes, and then we'll fill that in together. So, once Charlemagne dies in 814, there's no real central government. There's nobody really to take over. So lots of different kingdoms, lots of different nobles, lords, people with land and money. They kind of fight, and there's lots of chaos and confusion. Now, the nobles, they are basically going to supply the kings who try to move in with their armies. Give them animals, food, horses, soldiers. Okay? The nobles are then allowed to collect some taxes, write some laws. So the nobles start to get a little bit of extra power there. Okay? Some even become as powerful as the kings. In the Middle Ages, there's no social mobility. If you were born poor, you stayed poor. If you were born a noble or a lord, you stayed that way. If you were born in the royal family, you were going to be a king or a queen or something like that someday. You didn't flip between. There was none of this starting from the bottom, get to the top. Didn't happen in the Middle Ages. Okay? It's not part of their society. So 2 more fancy words we need to know. Lord and vassal. So the lord, that's like the boss. Okay? I want you to think about the boss. That's the person who has the power and the money. Then there's the vassal. That's like the worker. That's the person who's serving them or making stuff for them. Now the lords, they have to protect the vassals. Okay? They have to provide them with military protection. They're also going to give them land to live on. The vassals, in exchange, are going to serve them. They're either going to fight for them or they're going to work for them, grow stuff for them. Okay? Provide them with food. All nobles were vassals to the king. So the king is going to be the lord over everybody. They're the boss of everybody. The nobles, they are the next step down. They work for the king. They're the vassals. There was a special ceremony called the Act of Homage, where basically the vassals pledged allegiance to the lord. They said, hey, we will work for you, we will serve for you, as long as you protect us, as long as you give us land. Okay, and that was kind of made official. Now that is going to work its way down, and we'll see that in our charts here. So let me kind of show you the finished chart first, explain that a little bit, and then we'll move to the chart that you're filling in. So in feudalism, at the top, up top here, we've got our king. He's in charge, king or queen. They own everything. They're the boss. They're the lord over everything. They make the laws, and when people like the lords or the knights serve them in battle and fight for them, they're going to give them land. So we've got land that's going to move down this side. In exchange, the lords and the knights and everybody else, they agree to help the king, to serve the king, to work for the king. So we've got service going up this way and loyalty. Coming down this way, we've got land and money. Okay? Now the next step down, we've got the lords. Now they're going to work for the king. So they are the vassals, the nobles. They're the vassals to the king. The king is their lord. But the knights, the soldiers, they work for the lords. The lords are the lords over the knights. The knights are the vassals, the workers, for the lords. Same way moving down. At the very bottom here we have our peasants, otherwise known as serfs, our poor people. These are often people working for the church, or they are working on farms or making things. Okay, they could be servants. They are the vassals to the knights. So they're going to work for the knights. They're going to work for the lords. They're going to work for the king. They work for everybody. They don't have any vassals. They're not the lords over anybody. Okay, they're at the bottom. So we've got land and protection coming down this way. We've got basically food and service coming up this way. On your chart, looks something like this. You're going to have to fill in each level who's there. Okay, so obviously up top, the most powerful, we've got the king, and we've got the lords, and we have our knights, our soldiers, then we have our peasants here at the bottom. Then you're also going to have to tell me, hey, who are they the lord of? Who are they in charge of? So the kings, they're going to be in charge of this next row, which is our lords and our nobles. But who are they the vassal to? Who do they work for? Well, the kings, that's a trick question. They don't work for anybody, right? They're at the top, so no one. Same thing, we move the way down. Our lords, who are they the lord of? Well, they're the boss of, or they're in charge of this group. Who's below them? That's our knights. Who are they the vassal to? Who do they work for? Well, that's who's above them. Okay, that's the king. So that's how we fill these middle boxes in, and you work your way down the whole way to the bottom. Remember, lord is who are they the boss of? Vassal, who are their workers? And then on this side is what are they giving? So what do these people give to the people below them? So the king, he's going to give land to the nobles. The nobles are going to give land to the knights. The knights are going to give land and protection to the peasants, the farmers. On the other side, we go up. What do those people receive? So, what do the knights receive from the peasants? Well, they're going to receive service. They're going to receive food. Well, what do the lords receive from the knights? Well, they're going to receive military service, some protection, some food probably. Okay. Then what does the king receive from those lords, those nobles? Well, they're going to serve them in the military. They're going to give them some of the goods that's made on their land. Right? So fill this in. You can feel free to use this. Will be posted. Feel free to use this to help you out. Okay. Use the Nearpod to help you out as well. If you have questions or get stuck on any of the blanks, email me. Okay. I want to help you with this. If you need anything, let me know. And good luck, folks.